Welcome back to Uninformed Movie Reviews, the podcast where we review movies. Hey.
Frank, you could not be more correct.
Welcome
back.
Except today we're not really reviewing movies.
And that's the point I was going to get to. Today we'll be talking about movies. I guess if you can give your opinion, that's cool. Yeah. But that's not what we're here for today. We're here to inform you, the audience, and I suppose each other. Although I refuse to let David teach me anything. That's my goal in life. If I can make it through life without David teaching me anything, I did all right.
Well, I've already done it because you didn't even realize I was teaching you while it was happening.
I always realize.
That's good teaching, everybody.
I get upset at you
That's good
when
teaching.
you try it. Today we're going to be talking about haunted movie sets. Not necessarily spooky movies, although that is the case a lot of the time, but movie sets where it was kind of a presence just making everything go wrong. You know what I mean? Could it be supernatural? Who knows? I guess we'll get into it. And today, leading us off, will be my man, Danny, 2 hands, 10 fingers, 9 toes. Why don't you lead us off?
I'm really glad that one of those is as it should be. I'm also a spooky Spielberg on this talk. Welcome back, everyone. It is another entry in our fantastic spooky season. And haunted movie sets. I mean, there's a lot of them, you know, there's a lot of urban legends that stem. Some of the most famous include the Twilight Zone movie. What's another one? The Exorcist.
The Passion of the Christ.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. I learned about that from you guys. And another would be the one that I chose, which is 1976, The Omen. Ooh. Have you guys seen this movie?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah? Nice. Good. I feel like it's almost considered necessary watching.
Yeah, I would consider it an essential horror movie.
Oh, yeah. I think it's like the evil child movie.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, exactly.
It's the original.
For those who haven't seen it, though, let's give them a little synopsis.
No, don't do it.
If
we have seen it.
I gotta be a tattletale about it. The synopsis.
Oh yeah, and I feel like it should just go like spoilers abound.
Oh yeah, fair.
Oh yeah, if all these movies are going to be talking about, I'm sure we'll be spoiling them. So,
but to be fair, all the movies we're going to talk about today, it's kind of like,
and one of them it won't even matter.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, you don't have to worry too much about it.
Quite an old film, also, and it has been remade. So if you haven't seen it, I mean, spoil it now. Skip ahead. Go to Frank's part. Maybe it'll be better. Who knows?
Probably.
Yeah, so The Omen, 1976. Robert and Catherine Thorne seem to have it all. They are happily married, and he is the U.S. ambassador to Great Britain. But they want nothing more than to have children. When Catherine has a stillborn child, Robert is approached by a priest at the hospital who suggests that they take a healthy newborn whose mother has just died in childbirth. Without telling his wife, he agrees. Oh, that always goes well.
Yeah,
that's not a
good play. Yeah, you usually gotta say something.
Secrets, the best thing for a marriage.
That's how you end up with like a tiny Russian woman living in your house who looks like a child.
After
I always
relocating
forget about
to
that
London,
movie.
strange events and the ominous warnings of a priest lead him to believe that the child he took from the Italian hospital is evil incarnate.
Whoa.
Solid movie scoring yet again, Danny.
Thank you. I do Boombox 4 movies. This film was directed by Richard Donner. David, what other movies has Richard Donner done? I'm sure you know.
Richard Donner did Superman.
He did do Superman.
Yeah, the Richard Donner cut. That's a very famous thing about Superman 2.
Release the Richard Donner cut.
Yeah, that's the original Snyder cut. Was the Richard Donner cut.
Yeah, he didn't need a second cut to make a better film, really.
There's another huge one, though, and I can't think of it off the top of my head.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but rather the top of my touch screen. He did the Goonies, man.
That's right. That's
super cool.
He did the Goonies.
And Lethal Weapon.
Scrooged.
Oh, Scrooged is...
Superman 2 and Lethal Weapon series, which was interesting. So I was like, wow, none of those are anywhere in the same genre as this.
Maybe he got scared.
Kind of all over the place. But I got to say, each of those movies are really good. I mean, I don't think there's any in there that are flat out stinkers. I mean, Scrooged is probably the least.
Yeah, that's probably my least favorite Bill Murray film. I'd
Ooh,
say.
Bill Murray film. You like Garfield more than you like Scrooge?
Oh, geez.
You know, a
He's in a
highly
lot of
underrated
stinkers.
Bill Murray film, Meatballs. That's a good summer camp film.
I haven't
man.
seen
Hey,
Meatballs.
you want to know a good Bill Murray film?
Ghostbusters.
Osmosis Jones.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
forget that he's in Osmosis Jones.
To get back to it, I mean, let's talk about this film culturally. So, just to kind of give it a little bit of context, if I may, The Omen came at a time when the sociological aspects of America began to change quite a bit. The peace and love culture of the 60s had come to a close with the Vietnam War. And
Wait, are you
paranoia
telling me-
of not only the government, but the great other began to become a focus.
Are you
Cinema
telling me
then-
we're not still doing peace and love? Like we're not doing that right now?
I wish, but it's not, unfortunately. So cinema, as it does with most other things, began to reflect the times and reflect the sentiment as well. Like following the arrest and the subsequent trial of Charles Manson and the Manson family murders, interest from the public in the supernatural, the occult, and all of these other horrors kind of began to rise in popularity with films, especially sparked by The Exorcist, which would definitely be an opening for the conversations of religious horror.
And which would one day lead to tons of like pretty innocent teenagers being convicted for things that they didn't really do.
Yeah, this is possibly the start of the Satanic Panic. Actually, I think it is.
Interesting.
Though one can honestly argue that's been going on in America for quite a while.
Yeah, we do that sometimes.
Since like the 1400s.
Yeah.
The Salem witch trials, maybe. So the idea for The Omen came to a Christian businessman named Bob Munger. He claims that he believed the world would be truly terrified if they knew that the Antichrist, prophesied in the book of Revelation from the Bible, the son of the devil, was real and walked among us on earth, with the unclear premise of the sweet boy on screen growing into the Satan we know from Revelations. Ooh. Can I give you a little bit of trivia before we dive into this, boys?
Oh, I thought you were going to give us a plot synopsis on Revelations.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's really what I was looking for. Do you have any?
I can go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
So there's some horsemen.
There's some horsemen, something with 7 heads. There's a lot of trumpets. It's really loud.
Plagues. Pestilence.
So anyways, I started shooting. The film was initially called Antichrist, which was interesting to me. Then it changed to The Birthmark.
That's a good one.
Not as sexy.
It depends on the
before-
birthmark and the location, I suppose.
That's true. I forgot that it's a huge part of the movie too. That was all before landing on the name The Omen. So Bob Munger, the guy who actually came up with the idea, contacted the writer for the film, and apparently he had the original idea. And the writer took about a year to pen up the script. And once it got going, there was some real traction taking place, and it was pretty incredible how all of these things kind of came together. Excuse me, Lord.
You're excused.
How gross.
So actually, when they started looking at casting this film, a lot of big names had actually tried to take the spot of Robert, which is the main character, I believe his name is.
I believe it's
Robert
Bobbert.
Thorne. Yeah, Robert Thorne, who ended up going to Gregory Peck. But before Gregory Peck, big names such as Charlton Heston and Roy Scheider actually turned down the role.
Oh, and Charlton Heston actually turned down the role because they wouldn't let him shoot the kid at the end. That was a big thing for him.
Was that really?
No, I'm just joking.
Oh, okay.
It's just an NRA
David's
joke.
good at these factoids. It's kind of hard to doubt him.
Sorry.
It's just one of those things about David. He's good at like giving you BS without you
Really good at
doubting it
lying.
all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Seems legit.
Therefore, okay, so actually, one of the alluring aspects that made Gregory Peck say yes, actually, Gregory Peck was kind of winding down his film career at this point. So he actually said yes because this film was different from what other horror films were doing in that it was kind of integrating the psychological horror aspect of the film rather than it just being a straight out slasher horror movie or anything like that. So it actually brought his interest. And kind of a crazy time once Gregory Peck said yes, because once he was on board, the film started grabbing traction, and let's just say a lot of things started going wrong at that point. So things started going wrong from the beginning. I'm going to go in context of things that happen at pre-production and things that happen during production and a little bit after. Everything happens at different timelines on this film, which is really interesting. So first thing is Gregory Peck's son, it's tragic, commits suicide. And this is 3 months before production began, actually.
Ooh, that's rough.
His son committed suicide. He was devastated. His agent convinced him to stay on with the project so as to not be consumed by his grief.
Damn, they
idle
didn't
hands
just
and
like
whatnot.
replace him with somebody else and then make all the fans angry about it.
Yeah, curse it even more? I don't know. Which is crazy because during a transatlantic flight, while Peck was on his way to film in Los Angeles, because they switched locations from London to LA quite a bit, Peck's plane was struck by lightning. Now, most large carrier jets tend to be struck by lightning. I think a ratio of like once a year I was researching. So it's not like that uncommon. But this isn't the first instance of this, y'all.
That's not
It will
something
keep
I want to
coming up.
hear, though.
Wait, so each plane gets struck once a year, or in a year out of all planes, one gets struck?
I think it's more so that more large carrier jets, especially on transatlantic flights, are susceptible to getting struck at least once a year.
Okay, I see.
I guess it's just because, they're going over the sea. They got a lot of storm surges to
They're
go
so
through and stuff.
big and
They're a big metal
metally.
object. Yeah. That's got a lot to do with it. Okay, also, moving on. We're still in the pre-production phase. So looking at the casting of Damien. This one's not so much a cursed part as it is just a fun little factoid.
The
So
kid just like
the
showed
director-
up outside his door one night during a storm.
So cute little Damien. Richard Donner, the director, he wanted to pursue an actor without prior experience, which led him to the decision to cast the role while they were in London, filming the London scenes. Originally, Richard Donner wasn't impressed with Harvey Spencer Stevens' audition initially, so they wanted to see him in the role. So they had him do a trial scene with Gregory Peck, and I think with one of the directors or someone from the staff, where they were reenacting the scene of them driving up to the church with him in the car. And apparently this kid went so balls to the wall that he actually just started acting crazy, throwing up this fever pitch. And he also just once they pulled him out of the car, he just kicked Richard Donner right in the testicles. And apparently that led him to being casted.
So that's a tip for all you kids out there trying to make it in the biz. When you get your shot, just make sure you kick somebody in the nuts.
Just be memorable.
Yeah. And be like, you know what? That kid's got chutzpah.
Well, last bit of pre-production. So Bob Munger, the Christian man with the idea, came in, talked to the writers to try and make this a film. Once he got the film started getting traction, he actually served as the religious advisor to the film. So though he had the original idea, once the film had begun to receive traction with nailing the role of Gregory Peck, he decided to have a meeting with the producers prior to production to warn the producers. The warning that Bob Munger would go on to say was letting the producers know that the greatest trick that the Antichrist ever achieved was making the world believe that he didn't exist. End quote. So he's citing the possible exposure of the Antichrist's existence, and that's saying that it would probably have repercussions.
There's another horror movie that starts off with that quote. It's like the first title card, like at the beginning of the movie.
What's
Is
the
it
quote?
devil?
Sorry, I just missed it.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Oh, that's Bedazzled. That's how Bedazzled starts.
it's Bedazzled?
Off. No, I'm just
Interesting.
joking. Sorry, that's 2 for 2 tonight,
See,
guys.
there's another factor. Kevin Spacey says that in Seven, I believe.
Ooh.
It's used in a lot of movies, from what I was researched. But
That makes sense.
So
You know,
yeah,
I've actually
that's what
never
Bob
seen
Munger-
Seven.
Really?
Yeah.
That's really good.
So it's kind of like a nice little prologue setting up what's going to happen.
Things are already spooky.
This is pretty spooky. Let's move on into production. Okay, so I mean, throughout a lot of the production, obviously there was so much going on that it kind of just culminates. But one of the most overarching problems in London specifically was the IRA was actually actively bombing London in protest of the British government, I believe. And a lot of the film's crew was put in danger while they were in production. So since a lot of it took place around the city, Max News, the executive producer, he has a couple of instances where things could have gone dicey for all of them. So apparently in the lobby of the Hilton that Noose and a couple of other crew members were staying, it was bombed by the IRA just minutes before Max News left. Oh, sorry. Yeah, just minutes after he left with his wife. He was still able to feel the ground rumble as his car took off from there. A lot of it also after that, while production was going on, Max News had actually tried to make reservations for one of their favorite eating spots called Scott's down in London as a way to like placate the crew because there was so much strange goings on. And on the way there, it actually blew up before they got there. I think it blew up like an hour before they got there.
Now, is this a curse or is this just like, this is what happens when you're making a movie in a place that's like currently under attack?
It's like a war zone almost.
It's like, oh, I'm gonna go make a delightful movie in Germany in 1945. This movie's cursed. All these bombs are going off. It's like, well,
I wonder if he was like planning it out before everything really started to kick off. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, well, I've already put a little bit too much work into this, so hopefully it's not too bad when we get over there.
I don't really know the timeline of the IRA, so I don't really know what that looks like.
Most of what I know about the IRA comes from movies and Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
There's something funny. It's not funny, but it's really interesting. I forgot to mention it when we were talking about in pre-production, but so when I said that the unfortunate death of Gregory Peck's son kind of led to him being in the film, it actually was a part that was going to keep him away from the film at first because the original end had Robert Thorne stabbing Damien to stop the Antichrist. And Gregory Peck was kind of like, I don't really want to do that.
I'm not really in the mood to kill a kid right now.
Yeah. So they had to change the scene at least 3 times. The following scene would be where there were just 3 caskets, and it would, saying that the mother, the father, and Damien were all dead, apparently. But the movie studio was just like, nah, we want to see one where Damien lives because we want to milk it for that sequel.
Ooh, you gotta get the sequel money.
Yeah, and that's how we got the iconic ending scene where Damien is staring at the camera, laughing. Apparently, Richard Donner, while he was looking at the camera, said, "Don't you laugh, Harvey. Don't you dare laugh." And obviously it made the kids smile and laugh, creating that iconic scene. It's just fantastic.
That is fun.
That's nice.
Oh, that is interesting.
So a little bit back into actual production. This is the second instance of a transatlantic plane getting struck by lightning. So Max News, the executive producer's flight was also struck by lightning during his transatlantic flight to LA. And also another flight 3 days later with David Seltzer, the writer, struck by lightning from London to LA. Like I said, it's not an uncommon thing, but this is kind of uncommon to have it happen to 3 people that know each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those are some unfortunate transatlanticisms.
Ooh, great album. Awesome album. There's actually a little part of the production that's well known for those that have followed the production of this film. And it involves everything that went wrong with the series of animal actors that were being used. One of the most notable would be the lions incident. So apparently there's a scene where Damien and his mother go to a safari park or a zoo, and all of the animals are interacting with him and running away, being scared. Obviously, he's the Antichrist and all that. But apparently it took place over a long time of filming, and a lot went wrong. So there was a scene where lions were supposed to be interacting or reacting to Damien's presence. It ended up getting cut. But the crew that had filmed the scene never ended up using it. But the guard that was guarding the compound apparently left his booth open. Later that day, after they had finished filming, the lions escaped and mauled him. 2 lions mauled him to death.
Whoa.
Right? This, unfortunately, isn't the first, but it also won't be the last case of accidental death in this production.
Well, at least it was like accidental death and not like another lion mauling.
What
Like
if you guys,
7
what would you guys
dudes
have
got
said if,
mauled
like,
by lions during this movie.
the guard had left his door open, and that night he was struck by lightning. So the next instance would have to be dubbed the Devil Dog instance, and this was with the Rottweilers on the set.
Oh, good boys.
There's a scene where the Rottweilers interact with Robert Thorne, and they attack Robert Thorne, and I'm not sure who the other gentleman is in the cast, but apparently when they had the Rottweilers on set, they kind of shocked the crew members as to how violent these dogs could be at the beginning of filming scenes. And apparently the stuntman was convinced after one rehearsal with the dogs that the protective gear he was given was not good enough, and it wasn't going to keep him safe. So once he brought up a fit, rightfully so, to the production crew, he said, I got to reinforce this. So after that, he reinforced his suit with felt and stainless steel.
Oh, okay.
To get some more protective clothing. But it still would prove not enough after the second time of doing it. So imagine if he never brought it up.
Dang, dude. He needed some like chainmail or like a shark suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, apparently during the scene, the dogs bit through everything, down to his arm. It was reportedly difficult to call off the dogs after the cut of all the scenes, too. The pain from the bites left him in shock afterwards, too.
Dang.
Wow.
So never be afraid to talk about workplace conditions with your boss.
Yeah, legit. There should be a phone number somewhere for you to call somewhere in the break room.
OSHA is your friend.
OSHA is your friend. That's a lesson we're going to learn here today.
Another instance of the animals going awry. This one's kind of just like the fault of humans, though, to be honest. Like, so there's this iconic baboon sequence in the zoo scene where they're driving through the safari park and the baboons try to attack the car where Damien is inside. Well, apparently, when this filming occurred, the warden of the baboons advised tranquilizing a younger baboon to put in the back of the car to elicit a reaction from the other pack of baboons. Which, if you're an animal expert, that just sounds like wrong right away.
Sounds like
I mean, I'm not an expert. That sounds like a bad idea.
yeah.
Why would you do that? So, I mean, obviously, baboons are a very protective and dangerous species. The reactions that they gave the car on camera were authentic. So were the actors who had no idea what was going to happen. So, gotta love those instances in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah. You got to love it when a director is just like, yeah, it's going to be dangerous, but it's going to feel real.
Very, very Ridley Scott move. I like it. This is pre-Ridley Scott, though. So that, as far as the animals, that wraps up the little animal section. This moves on to one of the last two and one of the most serious. So this is the notorious airplane accident that took place at a local airport where the film crew had actually chartered their own plane for use in shots that they were going to do on the ground only. Apparently, the airport that harbored the plane called the crew one day because they were booked on all the airplanes they had there. And they asked if they would be able to rent out the charter to another person wanting to take it out that day. The film crew wasn't using it that day. And they said, go ahead. And the airport said, okay, well, we'll compensate you. We'll give you a cheaper rate some other day. And they're like, all right, sure. So they skipped filming that day. The pilot that took it out, he hit a flock of birds. The engines quit. The plane lost airspeed and it crashed at the end of the runway. When it went into a street, it hit a station wagon. The station wagon had a woman and her 2 children in it. They all perished. The driver, the passengers, and the pilots, they were all family.
Whoa.
So it was the pilot's family that was in that station wagon.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Right?
That's a fun little story, man.
That's something.
Made lights
and
go
it's
off
not
in my brain.
even the strangest. Boys, that brings it to
The strangest?
the strangest.
Wow.
The most ominous, if you will. Thank you. Thank you. This is the famous one, which I think if anyone has heard about what went on behind the production of The Omen, they've probably heard of this one. This was one I was most familiar with, but this is the famous decapitation. If you've seen this movie, you know that there's a decapitation scene with a pane of sliding glass sliding out of the back of a truck and taking off this man's head. And it's pretty dope.
Final
Great practical
Destination
effects.
style.
It is. It really is Final Destination style. So apparently, the film's special effects man, John Richardson. It may be his special effects man or the stunt man. I'll have to double check. But anyways, he was in Holland after filming his parts for The Omen. He was filming his scenes for the next film that he was in called A Bridge Too Far with Sean Connery. When he was involved in a head-on collision. So he was the stuntman. Oh, here it is. He was the stuntman for the decapitation part of The Omen. His assistant, Liz Moore, was in the car with him when they crashed. She was decapitated when the front wheel of the car came up into the cabin. In clean decapitation. Allegedly, though, when John Richardson woke up from a coma from that accident, the first thing he reported seeing, well, it wasn't even a coma, I'm sorry. When he came to from that accident, the first thing he remembered seeing was a sign for the town in Holland called Omen, O-M-M-E-N, and it was read 66.6 kilometers away.
Metal. Yes. I also really like that you can call it a clean decapitation because it's still real messy. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I can't even imagine what the crime scene was like.
What kind of obnoxious street sign is going to give you 66.6?
That's what I was thinking as well. I was like, that sounds a bit of a stretch of the truth.
It was just some cool dude who happened to be working that department. You know
guess
what I mean?
so.
He was like, sick.
Which is funny because in the U.S. they just have to like not use any street signs with 666 on it. Like mile markers, apparently they don't replace them because they just get stolen so frequently.
And 420 as well.
Yeah. There's a couple numbers like that.
They'll do like
69.
429 or like 419.
419.98.
Well, folks, I mean, that is it for that part of The Omen. But I would be remiss, fellas, if we didn't talk about stats. So a little bit of stats for The Omen.
Wow.
Hit us with the stats, Danny.
He's got to come in here.
Hit us with the stats or just be remiss and we'll just keep moving.
The Omen pulled in at, it was made on $2.8 million initial budget.
Weird.
Opening
That's almost
weekend.
like the exact same budget as my movie.
Huh.
It's really weird. Yeah.
Opening weekend, it brought in $4 million. It was a smash hit and a buzz. It came in at the end with $60.9 million gross.
Ooh.
It is a phenomenal success.
And also a solid number.
Solid number, exactly. Might get stolen at some point.
60.9. It's a bit of a stretch.
Oh, I heard it wrong. There was a miscommunication happening up here.
The Omen has an IMDb rating of 7.5 out of 10 and Rotten Tomatoes at 86%. I think I agree with that. We also have what we established last podcast, fellas, as what was it? The spooky movie tax that you have to take into effect.
Of course. Yeah, the horror movie's always going to be rated a little bit lower.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
That's right. And those, my friends, are the haunted occurrings of The Omen.
Ooh, sounds like a pretty hostile work environment.
Does sound pretty rough.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
At one point, I'd be like, I'll go home.
You know, you guys can keep your money. I'm good. Get out of here. There's bombs going off. People getting their heads lopped off. I'm done.
Well, for mine, everyone, I got, The Omen's an iconic movie. This is the opposite. This is a movie that nobody knows, and because it was never finished.
Is it a film with no name?
No, it has a name, actually, and the name of the movie is Atuk.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
I have never heard of this.
Atuk. I don't know if you guys have seen this
Like
one.
not attic, but like Atuk?
Yeah, so it's Atuk.
Huh. That's not a word I'm familiar with, David. Sounds made up.
Well, I think you'll understand as soon as I read this little synopsis here of why you don't understand the word. It's a name. It's like a Inuit name. That makes a little more sense. Okay, so Atuk. First, let's talk about its source material, just so we have a little bit of context. It's nice to know what it is that you're hearing about. And this little summary I've pulled off good old Wikipedia. Which, donate to Wikipedia. Keep it free, everybody. This is based on a novel. The film Atuk is based on a novel called The Incomparable Atuk. A satirical novel by Canadian author Mordecai Reichler. It was first published in 1963, and basically the story is a Canadian Inuit who is transplanted to Toronto. So it's like Crocodile Dundee, you know what I mean? Except
with a Degrassi twist.
With a Degrassi twist, exactly. Imagine that guy from Crocodile Dundee hanging out with little wheelchair Drake. That's what I want you all to think about right now.
That's not a chair.
So
this is a chair.
So you get the whole, the fish out of water. But then he quickly adopts to the greed and pretensions of the big city. Bum, bum, bum. And this is just a little tidbit off Wikipedia, and some of this was lost on me. It satirized Canadian culture elites of Reichler's day, who in the novel fetishize Atuk first as a noble savage, and when his corruption becomes apparent, as a symbol of Canadian nationalism and anti-American sentiment.
Everybody loves America, David.
Everyone does, except for the Canadians sometimes.
But capitalism saves us all.
Yes, I know. That's obviously true. But haters going to hate.
And we just keep trying to give it to everybody. I don't know what their problem is.
They're not grateful, I guess.
Ingrates.
How terrible.
Not everybody is Inuit.
How smooth.
So check it out. This book comes out. It's a pretty big success. It's Canadian. They're like, oh, Canadians.
It's a pretty big success. It's Canadian.
It's Canadian. You know what I mean?
It's catching wildfire like poutine sweeping across the land.
It's like people in Canada are going crazy, but they're Canadians.
They're like, oh, that's pretty delightful.
Oh, us, don't you know us nice? Hey. But nevertheless, what happens when a book gets successful? They make a movie out of it. So Atuk went on to be they were trying to make it a movie, but now it is not a movie. But we have a screenplay written by Todd Carroll. It's an adaptation of this novel, except that in the movie, they've changed things up a little bit. In the movie, he's an Inuit hunter from Alaska who tries to live in New York City. Ooh, and there's elements of racism, materialism, and pop culture going on.
Sounds like New York City.
Yeah, right. So this is the good old 1980s, 1970s, because the script was around since the 70s. People were interested in it, but now it's kind of it's out to sea. It's floating out there unattended. But let's play a little game, everybody, because there's some big names attached to this project. Say it's the 1980s. You're gonna make yourself a fish out of water movie. You got to get yourself a big 80s actor, big comedy guy to do the good old fish out of water. And it's about an Alaskan Inuit living in New York. Who are you gonna pick?
Well, a white guy probably.
Well, obviously a white guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got to be a white guy.
Yeah.
Let's just make this.
Why would we hire an Inuit?
We're trying to give this away in America.
Yeah, let's just let's deal with that right now. You're gonna hear a bunch of white men.
Steve Martin.
You know what?
Was he considered?
He was considered, but he
Yeah.
wasn't
Nice.
seriously approached. Danny, you got to guess, and then I'll just give it to you. I won't make you guess.
Jim Carrey.
Oh no.
Well, no, this is before Jim Carrey.
I was gonna say he'd be a bit too young.
He'd be like getting ready to do In Living Color.
John Candy.
Ooh.
Oh, I could see him
Really?
playing an Inuit.
Oh, you're real close, Danny. But what we have here, our first actor who attached to this film was John Belushi.
Oh man.
So, and this information that I'm giving y'all, I'm getting this actually off a creepypasta. I would have never thought I'd been doing research on creepypasta, but
Some people would say the most reliable source of information, really.
yes.
Don't
yes.
trust those people.
And if you're into this little tale too about Atuk here, then there's actually quite a few pages of people kind of like summarizing this information. There's like AtukCursedFilm.com, the truth behind Atuk.edu, that kind of thing.
Wow.
But anyway, no, that last one's fake. This guy, John Belushi, he's offered the lead role in 1982. And he showed a lot of interest in the script. He's like, you know what? I've always seen myself somewhat of a native fisherman. I think I would kill this role.
That honestly sounds like something John Belushi might say, though.
So, John Belushi shows interest in this role. But a few months later, on March 5th,
Oh, what happened?
Belushi was found tragically dead, everybody,
Uh-oh.
at the Chateau Marmont
Wrong kid died.
by his trainer, Bill Wallace. He was only 33, if you guys don't know about this. I know you two do, but maybe someone listening doesn't. His cause of death was determined to be drug-related, most likely a speedball.
Also, the cause for him thinking he would make a good Inuit.
Yes. So it's funny because these two things kind of... And you know what? We're going to see a pattern develop as we go along here. So you got a big major comedy movie. You got old John Belushi. He's dead now.
That guy.
So who do you go to next? Who's the most logical jump after this?
Christopher Farley.
Really?
Actually, next we move on to Sam Kinison, famous comedian. So in 1986, a little while later, good old John Belushi has passed. May he rest in peace.
Huh, Sam Kinison. You really don't see him a lot anymore.
Yeah, Sam Kinison, you know whatever happened to that guy? Well, he lands the lead role of Atuk. And in 1988, the production begins.
Nice.
They managed to do 8 days of filming until Kinison halts the production. He's like, hey, I'm on board here. I'm going to rewrite this script. I was told I was going to have creative decision here.
Wow.
Uh-oh.
So
How does somebody have ideas like that?
I don't know. So, yeah, apparently this gets real difficult. A lawsuit even ensues because, he signed contracts and now he's refusing to film the movie unless he has creative control of the movie. What a mess. So the movie was put on hold again until 1992. It was put on hold for quite a few years. And what happens during that time? Well, Sam Kinison dies. So Sam Kinison died Friday, April 10th, 1992. He was only 38. His vehicle was struck in a head-on collision by a 17-year-old drunk driver.
Yeah.
I didn't know this about Sam Kinison's death.
I didn't know that.
This is actually kind of a trigger warning here. His brother was there, could not see any visible injuries after the car accident, but he said that Kinison, his brother, began to talk to himself, repeating, "I don't want to die, I don't want to die," and then it appeared as if he was talking to someone who wasn't there, and he starts asking questions. He says, "But why?" Okay, and then he lost consciousness, and unfortunately, that was it. That was it. For Sam Kinison, he died of internal injuries. So yikes, yeah. So Attic, it's been in development all these years. You got a second dead funny guy. And then you're racking your brain. You're like, you know what? Maybe this is a bad sign. Maybe.
Some type of omen?
Ooh. Hey. So what do you do instead? No, instead you ignore it and you say, you know what? Let's get ourselves another funny guy. Let's start this thing up. And in 1994, they approached...
Please tell me it's Chris Farley this time.
John Candy. They approached John Candy with the role. He was thrilled. He enjoyed the script. He thought it was hilarious. In March of that year, John Candy dies. He was working in Mexico and he died of a heart attack at 43. Candy was reportedly asked his close friend Michael O'Donoghue to also read the script and perhaps join the cast. In November of that same year, he also passes away. Apparently this guy had a history of chronic migraines and cerebral hemorrhage. So yeah, now we got 3 big funny guys and one other dude who, we don't really know that well, but even attached to the movie slightly.
It's unfortunate. History goes that way sometimes.
Sometimes it does. So check it out. It's 1997 now. The film's rolling and is making the rounds again. Attic is now offered to Chris Farley, everybody.
Hey, there it is. I didn't even know this story. I just figured the way this was going, that guy had to pop up here eventually.
It's like we're running out of funny fat guys. Who's next? Farley was even aware that Jim Belushi was once attached to it. And he was a big fan of Jim Belushi. Kind of idolized him a bit.
A little too much.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, man. You're not wrong there. But unfortunately, Chris Farley dies as well. Not long after, just a few months after reading the script. He dies at age 33, the same age that John Belushi died in our very first interaction with Atuk. And just like John Belushi, it was of a drug overdose and presumably a speedball of sorts.
Yeah, some gruesome photos there for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, there's photos?
Yeah, dude, they're rough.
So
they are not funny.
Chris Farley, before he died, similarly to John Candy, also passed on to a friend saying, hey, I'm working on this picture here. There's this great
probably had
co-star
a lot of
role.
Arm movements like this, Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Very exaggerated. So who does Chris Farley call to get involved in this film?
He should have called David Spade so he wouldn't have to deal with that anymore.
Well, instead he called Phil Hartman to check out the script. And 5 months after the death of Chris Farley and after checking the script out, Phil Hartman is killed by his wife in a murder-suicide.
Oh my God.
So
right up the street from me, apparently.
Really?
That's nuts.
Yeah, I don't live too far from Phil Hartman's old house.
Dude, that's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. You should go get a picture.
I'm a little bit upset at you for not mentioning something like this before.
Well, we're definitely going to be doing a spooky haunted tour.
Man, stupid COVID. I could have gone and checked that out back in August if everything hadn't gotten ruined.
Coulda, shoulda. There's the American Horror Story murder house around here. There's apparently the Phil Hartman's mansion. There's a lot of scenes from Mulholland Drive up on Mulholland Drive.
What a coincidence.
Crazy.
It's like, oh, let's go check out that one good season of American Horror Story and where they filmed that out.
Let's try and forget about the rest, please.
But anyway, so yeah, here we are at the end of this tale. After this, I think after like 6 bodies accumulated, they were like, you know what? Enough's enough.
We got to stop killing these actors, man. We're killing a lot of comedy here.
Yeah, and then plus by the time you get into the 90s, it's like, oh, this is pretty insensitive. Maybe we should really get... well, no, you still have
we
quite
were
a
still
few
making
years.
fun of indigenous people.
You had quite a few
The
years.
Redskins thing just happened.
That's true.
Yeah, man.
And if anything,
jungle to jungle.
People are still saying, what? Nothing wrong with Redskins. Anyway, the scriptwriter, Todd Carroll, actually addressed this like in the late 90s because it sort of became like an internet thing. Here's this cursed movie I took. And he says, no matter what anybody's impression was, I think it's either coincidence or practical explanation. What a total just non-answer that really adds nothing to the conversation here. I don't really care what anybody thinks. It was either coincidence or there's a reason behind it. And you know what? I might have the reason behind it because all the guys you picked were around the same age and had very unhealthy lifestyles.
Well, like with Sam Kinison, though, it was just like unfortunate.
Yeah, that's true. But even
And Phil
statistically,
Hartman.
you would think. Yeah, the Phil
Phil
Hartman
Hartman
one's
got
weird.
murdered.
The Phil Hartman one is a weird turn of events. Quite unfortunate news. But yes, there is the Curse of Atuk, the mediocre film we never got to see.
How unfortunate. I guess if you're going to try to make it again, get like Adam Sandler or somebody involved.
Put someone on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Maybe like change it up, like gender bend it and get like Melissa McCarthy.
There you go.
Something, you know? That's a perfect fit.
There you go. She looks very Inuit as well.
I don't know if I'd agree with that. Well, David, that was honestly, I wouldn't say a delightful tale, but it was quite intriguing.
Right? There's some spooky coincidences going on there.
It took me,
That was
took me
pretty
way back
incredible.
through like a lot of sad like things, you know?
It's like,
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
all these really funny guys who
yeah.
died.
Yeah.
Who I loved all their movies as a child.
It's a damn shame, man. The Chris Farley one, I think, is the one that affected me the hardest, like in my life, because I like was growing up and becoming to love Chris Farley at a time where he was already dead. So I fell in love with him, and then found out that's why he wasn't making movies anymore, because he was a
Yeah.
dead guy. Oh, and I really took that hard as a kid.
Hard to make movies when you're dead.
It's extremely hard.
Yeah, it's one of the toughest things to do.
Well, David, I think that's going to take us to my haunted film, a film that came out in 1939. Not a spooky movie at all. The Wizard of Oz.
Well, you know, some people might say those flying monkeys are pretty spooky.
You know what? They're honestly like really freaky, you know?
Yeah,
it's just
they
like
are.
it's just uncanny enough to really like make your skin crawl.
Yeah.
There's really a lot of creepy parts to The Wizard of Oz, to be honest.
Yeah. Yep. This film's got an 8 out of 10 on IMDb, a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Pretty solid scores. Beloved across generations. This is actually one of my mom's favorite movies. So I figured I was trying to decide between two films, so I went with this one. Just so I can be like, hey, listen to the episode. I talked about The Wizard of Oz. But it's not going to be a happy discussion. So the budget for my film, they threw an estimated $2.7 million into this movie. Ended up grossing around $26 million worldwide.
And I imagine still makes
Probably,
buckets of
yeah.
money
That
today.
movie, that ticker's probably still ticking. So much like Danny's movie, some of my, and then I guess your film was all pre-production mostly because never really got off of the
Yeah,
ground.
they only filmed a couple scenes.
My instances are also going to begin in pre-production, starting with the actor originally casted to play the Tin Man. Is a gentleman named Buddy Ebsen. One night during pre-production while they were doing rehearsals, Ebsen woke up in the middle of the night screaming in agony because he was experiencing violent cramps in his hands, arms, and legs. He woke his wife up and they were already concerned, but once he began struggling to breathe, she called an ambulance and they took him to the hospital because stuff was wrong. You know what I mean? Ebsen ended up spending 2 weeks in an oxygen tent recovering from aluminum poisoning. He had ingested pure aluminum from the makeup paint that they were using in rehearsal.
Oh my God.
It also turned his skin blue. And production responded to this by demanding that the actor, and this is a direct quote from Ebsen, get the hell back to work. And when he told them, like, I can't, like, they have me in this tent enriched with oxygen because I can't breathe. They just replaced him.
Wow.
So
nothing like that old Hollywood heartlessness.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely one theme we're going to see throughout this little segment. Because this film was made in 1939. There's not a lot of stuff in place. And Hollywood's still not a great place. Can't imagine it being a whole lot better back then. So they obviously changed the makeup because you can't poison two actors in a row the same way. But the guy who ends up playing the Tin Man, Jack Haley, also suffered eye infections from the makeup. It still wasn't too dialed in 100%. But at least they weren't covering this guy in pure aluminum. which just seems like a terrible idea. Is this before or after Goldmember? I don't know. When did they do Goldmember?
Goldmember, the Austin Powers.
Goldfinger?
Goldfinger. The 60s.
The
yeah,
60s?
James Bond's way later.
So they should have already known that this was a bad idea.
Yeah.
Idiots. Do your research. But yeah, that's instance number one, which has got to like suck, you know what I mean? To just wake up in the middle of the night, like not being able to breathe and then just looking like a Smurf and having to live in this tent for 2 weeks. But that's going to take us to, that's really the only pre-production thing I have in my notes. That's going to take us to filming on set. Next up, we have Margaret Hamilton, who plays the Wicked Witch of the West, the Green Lady, if you're not too familiar. While filming the scene where she disappears in a puff of smoke, ninja style, right after she disappears, there's this like eruption of flame, right? Well, the effects crew, timing is everything, and you know, they just needed to be a little bit more patient, and Hamilton rather hadn't safely gotten off of the stage quite yet, and the flames unfortunately caught her broom and hat. Hamilton suffered burns to her chin, the bridge of her nose, her right cheek of her face, the right side of her forehead, her upper lip, and her eyelid and like eyebrow from that right eye were completely singed off. She also suffered some pretty severe burns to her hands, so severe that there were like exposed nerves in her hand, which can't feel great. I can only imagine that's pretty rough pain-wise. Hamilton had to call a friend to pick her up from set that day, rather than like the studio calling a limo or a cab or an ambulance for her. They just made her find her own way home. Wow. And they called the next day to see when she would return to set. It took Hamilton 6 weeks of recovery, and by the time she returned to set, her nerves were still so exposed that she couldn't put makeup on her hands. She had to wear like green gloves for the rest of filming, which is like terrible. But at least like, you know, production. This is a time where like they're not using a lot of like post effects. You know what I mean? Most of the stuff is practical. It's like they're still figuring out how to do this stuff perfectly at this time. But at least like you take an experience and you learn from it and you don't repeat the mistake. You know what I mean? That's what's important.
You would think.
You don't repeat your mistake. So Hamilton returns to set, and shortly after, she's asked to do another fire scene. Hamilton is a single mother at this time and not a complete idiot, so she refused. She outright refused. She's like, no, I'm not doing that again. So they went to Hamilton's stunt double, or her body double, I guess. And she was like, yeah, I'm down. You guys are paying me $35 for the day. Let's get dangerous, you know? That is like actually what she paid for. For back then, it's pretty all right.
Bad.
Pretty good for like standing in. I'm not sure if it's pretty good payment for also catching on fire.
No.
Yeah, so it was like the broom again. There was another mishap. The broom caught on fire, and this lady ended up spending 11 days in the hospital as a result of her wounds. Not a great effects team so far.
I will say though, I just put in an inflation calculator, and $35 in 1939 is equivalent to $654 a day.
That's a pretty good day.
Pretty good day.
You could set me on fire for $650 a day.
Really?
I'll remember that. $650 isn't hard to come by.
That's like, $325 a piece. Right?
I was gonna say we'll have a quick whoop around and we'll not even like feel the hit. You know what I mean?
I will have the caveat that it has to be supervised by a fire specialist.
We got George around.
Yeah.
He fights fire.
Well, there we go.
It's perfect.
I probably wouldn't have to pay him
pretty sure
anything.
he's
I'll be
a
like,
fire
hey, you want to come
specialist?
over? We're gonna light Danny on fire. He'll be like, sick. I'm off today.
You want to get in on this pod? He's only asking for $654.
What a steal.
So that's the end of our fire wounds. But it's not going to be the end of our unfortunateness that takes place on the filming of The Merry Old Land of Oz.
Frank, everything was peaceful until one day the Fire Nation attacked.
I'm glad I understand the reference. I've never seen it, Last Airbender, but I know I've seen that scene. During another scene with all of the Witch of the West's You know what? I totally forgot to give our viewers a plot synopsis if you haven't seen this movie yet.
I mean,
If you
but
don't
at
know,
the same time,
It's
it's been out since the 40s. So, I mean, just Google it. You know what I mean? It's fantastic. Give it a watch, honestly. I haven't watched it in a little while, but I probably will soon because now I'm all curious to see what I remember and what I don't. Anyways, the Wicked Witch of the West has all these soldiers, and during a scene with all the soldiers, one of them accidentally jumped on top of the terrier playing Toto, the little dog.
oh no,
Which is like sucks. It's a tiny little terrier.
Oh, no.
And fun fact, Toto was the only actor of the main cast who was paid less than Judy Garland.
wow.
wow,
The star
So
of
nothing?
the film. No, he got paid a little bit. You know what I mean? Just a little bit
Treats?
less than Judy. Maybe like treats and a good boy.
Treats in a pat.
Well, you got to pay the like handler. You know what I mean?
That's true. He would later go on to make more money as when he wrote Rosanna and did the film score for Dune.
True.
So you got it.
True facts, 100%. So the dog ends up spraining his foot. My canine double had to be brought in for a few weeks. Terry the Terrier, which is the dog's actual name, which is just great.
That's almost as if you came in here and just said his name was Terry the Terrier. I probably wouldn't have questioned it either way.
Yeah. So Terry the Terrier eventually makes a full recovery, is able to fill in for the last couple of shots of filming the film, but still, that sweet little dog got his paw hurt. That just breaks my damn heart. You know, he doesn't know
That is
what's
pretty
happening.
sad.
He doesn't know why he's there. He's just trying to be a good boy. Ugh. So, lastly, and I think this is the most negligent and atrocious of mishaps, I'm gonna say, and it's the most nefarious because it's like nobody even knew at the time how much danger they were in.
Ooh.
So there is a scene where Dorothy, played by Judy Garland, is awakened in a poppy field. It's beautiful, it's picturesque, and that picture is perfectly completed with some gently falling snow. You know what I mean? And they couldn't use computer-generated effects for this snow because we haven't invented them yet at this point, which makes it incredibly difficult.
Fair.
So they used the best next thing to a computer. I just want to pronounce this first word right because I kept like typing it in wrong. Chrysolite asbestos.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no.
You just get a bunch of asbestos, get it into tiny little pieces that are like extra good at getting into your lungs.
Yeah.
And you just pour it all over this 16-year-old actress. You know what I mean?
Wow.
That's what you do. For those of you unfamiliar with asbestos, it's a highly potent carcinogen. Lots of people died from asbestos. It'll give you lung cancer, mesothelioma, for those commercials, for those from the early aughts, if you will, if you remember thems. But yeah, that's crazy. You know what I mean? And could it have led to Judy Garland dying from cancer?
Oof. Maybe though.
Maybe, but we never
I
got to
was
find
just
out
gonna
because
ask
she
that.
died of a
I
drug
just-
overdose.
Yeah, she
And-
died from a barbiturate overdose.
Yeah, Judy Garland's like a really sad story. You know, it was like she was thrust into Hollywood way too young, and there was no oversight at this time. There's a lot of claims of like studio execs pumping her up with pills to keep her like on track with the demand of her schedule. And, you know, that led to her death, unfortunately. And she had a lot of suicide attempts. Very sad story, Judy Garland.
is sad.
It's super sad.
And
you
you
know,
know-
we noticed.
Oh, I'm sorry?
Well, I was going to say before we talked about Toto getting paid more than Judy Garland, and I just kind of want to put it into perspective.
Hit us with this perspective, Danny.
So I was just looking it up, and Judy Garland was making a salary of $300. Oh, sorry, $500 a week, which is still pretty good for a kid back then. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, you can buy a
compared
lot of
to
pills with that.
Yeah, but compared to everyone else's salary, I mean, like, so even the stand-in for the Wicked Witch was making equivalent of $654 an hour, or a day.
Oh, a day.
She was making more than Judy Garland.
Wow. Yeah. Well, no, it wasn't $654 a day, was it? I thought
Oh,
it was
35 a day.
Yeah,
Huh.
that's quite the difference.
Yeah.
But a lot of the other actors, including Ray Bolger, made $3,000 a week. Jack
Wow.
Haley, $3,000 a week. Burt Lahr, $2,500 a week.
That's
and those are
pretty
like
messed up.
supporting actors, you know what I mean? Everybody does a great job in that movie. It's like very vaudevillian a little bit, so everybody knocks it out of the park in that respect, but they're still the supporting actors.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing you could say is, and I don't know about this for sure, but Judy Garland, this is one of her first movies, isn't it? If not her first movie.
I thought it was her first, isn't it?
This might be the classic tale of like, you know, the newcomer ain't getting paid. As compared to these other actors who are like, we don't really know them now, but they were, you know, established actors.
Yeah, all these guys like were established at the time.
Wonder if there were child labor laws in Hollywood at that point too, though.
I bet they weren't as strict if there were there. So it's very unfortunate, Judy Garland's untimely early passing. But she's not the only member of the main cast to die. Really, like, out of the main actors, only one died of natural causes, and that was Billie Burke, who plays Glinda the Good Witch. She just got old and died, you know? That'll happen. Unfortunately for everybody else, they would meet untimely deaths. We have Ray Bolger, who plays the Scarecrow, dying of bladder cancer in 85. Frank Morgan, dying of a heart attack in 49. On the set of Annie Get Your Gun, which they had to replace him on that film because he was dead. Burt Lahr also died on a film set of The Night They Raided Minsky's, which I've never heard of. He died from complications of pneumonia in 67. He's our cowardly lion who's really brave the whole time. He just didn't know it yet. We have Buddy Ebsen, the original Tin Man, who also died from complications of pneumonia. Jack Haley, who was the final Tin Man, died of a heart attack in 79. And Margaret Hamilton, who was the Wicked Witch of the West, also died of a heart attack in 85.
Jeez, a lot of heart attacks.
A lot of heart attacks, you know? And a lot of this is like, is it really cursed or is it really more? It was 1939. Like, standards and practices aren't put in place. And a heart condition is a very real thing in America, you know?
Yeah.
Heart disease.
And I'm sure all these people are like, you know, swizzling booze and smoking the cigarettes.
Surely.
Like, given the time period.
So that also brings me to my next point of it not being a super safe environment. There's a lot of stories of a lot of these dudes just being hammered throughout the whole day, especially the Munchkin actors. There was a bar down the street from the set, and they would reportedly go there during every break, and you would just have a bunch of drunk little people in this crazy like garb going to this bar and to and from this bar every day. Lots of rumors surrounding Wizard of Oz, you know what I mean? Like the thing with the Munchkin actor hanging himself in the back.
Yeah.
The explanation I've always seen for that was one of the exotic birds, but I've always thought like, well, was somebody hanging one of those exotic birds? Because that was definitely some type of body swinging back and forth from a rope.
It's probably an exotic bird put in a Munchkin costume.
Yes.
And then hung.
All of these things really have reasonable explanations, but there is one more spooky death of not a main character actor, but one of the background characters in the film. Joseph S. Ortega, a child actor portraying one of the Munchkin children extras, would find himself settled outside of LA like years later, surrounded by his loving family, including his wife Alicia and their adult children Teresa, James, Sherry, and Sylvia, who was newly divorced. But this was no ordinary day. The family had gathered to celebrate Christmas Eve when they were interrupted by a knock at the door.
Okay, so anyways, it's time for our next segment. I'll just cut everybody off there right now.
I'm just kidding. The Wizard of Oz has nothing to do with the Covina massacre. It just felt like the right time.
I was almost thinking about hitting you with it today, actually. I was thinking about doing it for mine.
It was about the right time of the year for the Covina massacre, I think, is what was happening.
It's something in the air.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll get to it at Christmas. Who knows?
Wow.
But that's really all I got. You know what I mean? OSHA, you know?
Yeah.
It's important.
You know, it makes me wonder how much of this went into, you know, inspiration of Pink Floyd writing that album to go along with Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, that is a crazy coincidence, you know what I mean? But life's full of coincidences. I guess one of the things we learned here today is, like, humans, we're the real monsters, you know what I mean? And a lot of the times we do it to ourselves.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess you're not wrong, though.
Yeah.
Speedballs are dangerous, people.
Yeah, that's one of our slogans here at David and Frank and Beans. Speedballs are dangerous. You should never be doing this with your heart, you know?
I have a... Ooh.
Excellent point, David.
Thank you.
I will not say bless you because we are in spooky season.
But I think that's going to wrap it up for our haunted movie sets, boys. What a delightful time we had. But now it's time to get down to business. David, our next segment.
Oh, that's interesting.
How interesting.
And typically the next segment would be character limit extended.
I forgot about stretching it out.
But let's not even worry about that. Let's get a little out of order today. So let's have a choose your own adventure, y'all. Well, not even. I'm gonna choose it for you.
Okay, good. The last time we did a choose your own adventure was
That did not work out.
It was scary.
Great.
So you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and choose it today.
I'm gonna go ahead and go out on a limb and say it's the worst thing we've ever done as a channel.
There was your performance
I'm pretty sure
in that Rocket League episode.
What was it? A Way Out was probably worse.
A Way Out was terrible.
More entertaining though, I would say, objectively. As
it was
objective as I can.
Entertaining. It was just hard to go through.
Yeah, it was hard for us, but
As an
hopefully better for other
experience.
people.
Probably because A Way Out wasn't missing part of the story.
So I had 2 articles for y'all today. The first one's just depressing. It was just about how AMC's on track to just be out of money at the end of 2020. Like, they're just done.
AMC's crippling debt.
But let's not worry about that. Let's move on to this. There was some new news today about a certain movie franchise. And I thought it was so exciting I wanted to share it with you all. So Mad Max Fury Road, the George Miller banger, maybe the best George Miller film next to Happy Feet. Mad Max Fury Road, though, what a great action movie, and sort of had like a split protagonist thing, right? Because you got old Mad Max, the man that we know and love, but then you also got Furiosa, portrayed by Charlize Theron. Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It's finally come, everyone. They're going to do the prequel film entitled Furiosa 5.
Ooh.
The Fast and the Furiosa. No, it's not that. It's just Furiosa. Tokyo Drift. Well, what is Tokyo like in this apocalypse? I mean, I guess not. It's not that far away from Australia in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
obviously.
Wow, that is a incorrect take.
It's closer than like Saturn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's closer than California.
True.
It's all for scale. All about scale, boys.
It's all about relativity. But here's the big news, and I thought this was surprising. They announced the cast today, or at least the first 3 people that were cast, and they recast
Mel Gibson.
They recast Charlize Theron. She's not Furiosa.
That
makes me
good.
Furiosa.
Right?
Did they grab an actress that looks like her?
I would say kind of. Obviously, they're going for a younger character.
It's Melissa McCarthy, isn't it?
It's Anya Taylor-Joy, everyone. Anya Taylor-Joy. And if you're not familiar, she's the protagonist in The Witch and in Split.
Oh.
She's a great actress.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed all her performances so far. I think it's pretty intense. But to be filling in the shoes of an Oscar winner, such as Charlize Theron, pretty tough.
Well, maybe now is her
hard to
chance to
say.
prove her grit yet again.
Mm-hmm.
Also forgot that Anya Taylor-Joy has a new movie coming out, and you know which one that is?
Furiosa.
Is it the new Mad Max movie?
It is. Also, the newest Edgar Wright movie.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She's going to be in that.
Last Night in Soho.
Yeah. I'm excited. She's in a lot of great movies. There's something else she's in that I saw that was really good. But you know what? Let's not muddle on that right now. There's no reason to do that.
You know what, David? That for being David Dark and Depressing Pena, that was some uplifting news.
Well, you know what? Shut your mouth, Danny, because we're not done yet.
Oh.
Okay, so no, but seriously, we got 2 other cast members. We have Chris Hemsworth,
Okay.
Thor himself.
Yes.
Seems like he's just playing the big strong man. I'm just assuming. I can't see
As
him
he
as a
does.
villain. It would be cool if he was, but I don't see them casting Chris Hemsworth as a villain anytime soon.
Yeah, he looks too much like a hero.
Mm-hmm. He's got hero face. And then lastly, we have, and I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. Apologies.
Very excited.
Yaha Abdul Mateen II.
Oh,
Sounded pretty all right.
that sounds very familiar.
Ooh, and you know him, Danny. He is.
Oh.
I don't know how to say this without spoiling.
Oh, yeah.
But he's in the Watchmen television series.
He is Cal.
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 Let's just leave it at that. I don't want to potentially spoil what is a fantastic series.
Yeah. Also, you should watch that. Anyone that's listening that has not watched 2019's Watchmen on HBO.
Yeah, if you haven't figured it out yet, or you're not familiar with the channel, this is a pro Watchmen channel.
For real.
It's crazy how much Watchmen gets brought up.
And almost every episode, there is one Watchmen reference.
All right, Frank, I will break that cycle. He is also Black Manta in the DC Extended Universe.
Yeah, there you go. He's also in Aquaman. Is the character's name Black Manta? I thought it was always just Manta. Are you just being
Black
racist?
Manta.
Are you just thinking Black Panther?
No, it's definitely Black Manta.
Okay. Well, I mean, pretty much, though, that's it. We got 3 cast members. Pretty strong cast. George Miller's not connected to this. It'd be the first Mad Max movie without George Miller. But it would also be the first Mad Max movie without Mad Max, potentially. Would it make sense for him to show up in this film when it's a prequel before these characters met?
Yeah, that would be frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Quite confusing.
So with
They'll
that,
probably like tease him right at the end. You know what I mean?
yeah, like you'll see his boots,
Yeah.
or you'll see his car driving by or something. Yeah, they'll tease something. But then they're gonna have to put in a CGI young Mel Gibson just to really make it super
Fury Road.
confusing.
Fury Road is just fantastic, y'all. Man, what a time.
Fury Road is so good. There was some scenario I was in. This is like right before quarantine started. Michelle and I watched Fury Road, and then like 2 days later, we were hanging out with, I think it was Randy. And Randy was watching Fury Road, and it was like, well, let's just do it.
Yeah, it was a pretty intense watch of Fury Road.
Yeah.
It was quite intense.
Lovely film. My favorite Mad Max movie, I think. I could say that safely. It's so good.
It's pretty solid. It's like it never stops being fun to watch.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just incredibly fun.
For the lack of Thunderdome, definitely a solid Mad Max film.
Yeah, I mean that's great stuff too. We should do Mad Max movie ranking. There's only 4 of them though. We'll wait till Furiosa comes out.
A 5.
But yeah, gentlemen, that's all we got. So I guess now let's squeeze in that character limit extended real quick.
Extended.
Where we talk a little bit about the movie that we just talked a little bit about. I feel like I messed that up. What is it, Frank?
I like that.
You know, it sounds pretty close. I think it might be something like this segment where we talk a little bit more about the movie we talked a little bit about just a little while ago.
Ooh, there's an extra one. I love it. So what we just reviewed the incorrectly labeled by Netflix The Devil All the Time.
Yeah, and I would like to come out and say just out front that when we were trying to figure out how we were going to fill this hole in our schedule, we were all looking through the horror section, and that's where I found this movie. And just merely days later, somebody at Netflix must have realized their mistake because it's no longer in their like Halloween section.
And what was it called? Highbrow horror.
Highbrow horror, yeah.
Highbrow horror. You know, I do got to say there were some scenes in the movie that are alarming.
Yeah,
and I think could be in a horror movie. But overall, the story goes in too many places to be even, called that. If anything, it's...
Oh, bore are there places that we go.
Yeah, it's just it's
like a thriller.
It's a dark thriller, I guess.
A drama.
A drama.
A gothic drama.
Gothic drama sounds nice. Southern gothic drama.
That's what it was. That's what we watched.
Look at that. Welcome to the Uninformed Movie Reviews, where we correctly label mislabeled genred movies.
Hit us up, Netflix, you idiots.
You're slipping, Netflix.
Wow. Hey, so what do you guys think? Does anyone want to start this off? Any impressions on good old Devil All the Time?
I think I had the most opportunity to talk about it, so why don't you guys lead us off?
David, you had the shortest.
I had the least.
Yeah, you had the Hemingway. Why don't you hit us with some stuff?
Yeah. So first off, I went in. I had seen the trailer already before we decided to do the movie, and I was interested. And then I was like, okay, let's watch this thing. But I watched it last. I watched it like after you guys had, and we'd already had like this text conversation about it being just so long and like boring and like, wow, this movie's kind of like a bit of a chore to watch and everything.
I think I even told you like, hey, it's not spooky. We're in a bit of a pickle.
Yeah.
On this one.
Yeah. We even had that discussion too. And it was like, nah, let's just do it.
I think I was out of that conversation.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we were playing like Rocket League.
Yeah,
or something.
something else was happening. But so I ended up watching it, going in with a really low bar, and I just got to say that I loved this movie. I think it was a really, really good drama. I thought it had so many interesting characters. We have it's sort of like that really kind of mediocre movie Crash that won that Oscar, where you have all these people intertwining and clashing with each other. It's like every character had an effect on each other that kind of changed the way their life went.
Whether it was like direct or indirect.
Yeah, direct or indirect. And then
Parallel storylines.
they all kind of collide at the end in the last 40 minutes.
It also gave me the vibe of, I don't know if you've ever seen The Place Beyond the Pines.
Yeah. I was thinking about that movie a lot after I watched this as well.
You know what?
Definitely the vibe I got here. I mean, I think The Place Beyond the Pines is a little more seedy, if I can say. It's more modern, obviously, but it's got Ryan Gosling and who's the other person in it, Frank? I can't remember.
It's got Eva Mendes.
Yeah, Eva Mendes is in it. And who plays the like cop? It's somebody like famous.
It's like an ensemble.
Bradley
of-
Cooper.
it's like a-
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Rocket Raccoon.
Really good though. I mean, it's a really small cast, but it's
And is it
kinda
Bill
like this
Skarsgård?
one-
Is that the kid?
What? In Place Beyond the Pines?
Yeah, the kid actor ends up. He's somebody, isn't he?
I don't think it'd be
check.
Bill Skarsgård. It's a child. Seems a bit too young. But while you guys are looking that up, I thought the movie was just so solid. I'm kind of glad that I didn't. I feel like if you guys hadn't have said that maybe it was a bit on the slow side, I would have went in with a really high expectation, and then maybe that would have played against me. But man, I enjoyed it, and you know, the only thing that I tried to point out in my review, but maybe I can articulate a little bit better here. You guys were just hating on the pacing, and I was like, man, I am on such a different wavelength than these guys right now, because I just felt like every scene was punctuated, usually with some kind of like semi-traumatic event. Like some of those scenes are very memorable, especially.
Yeah.
I mean, I love. Speaking of what's his face,
Skarsgård?
yeah, Pennywise over there. The way that his character kind of exits the film, it was just like, whoa, what is going on here?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
That was definitely interesting.
It does have a bit of one of those kind of like aimless plots, though. It's
that's
more
what
about
I
the
was gonna
characters
say.
than it is a plot.
100%.
Yeah.
It's like they're everybody's storyline. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I would
This
just
is
like
more
to say
so
that.
Tom Holland's storyline, obviously, right? Arvin or whatever. his name
Marvin,
is.
yeah, I think he's like, yeah, I would say he's the main character, especially with the way that things kind of turn out. And everything.
And there's nothing, I guess, pacing wise. I mean, I think the length of the film is fine when you go in it, like you said, with the pretext of knowing it's a drama thriller rather than a psychological horror or anything, whatever they tried selling it as. But I liked that there's kind of like a prologue, but the prologue kind of has some fat that could have been trimmed off, I think, where you follow Bill Skarsgård coming back from the war and the atrocities he suffered, which kind of like lead into why Arvin is kind of messed up, especially when his mom dies from, what was it, cancer or something like that. And like the religious.
And and it's not
Like-
even that I like. So I was hating on the pacing, but I don't feel that way at all about it. I even said in my review, like, the pacing serves the tension. You know what I mean? Like without that pacing,
Yeah.
it wouldn't feel the same.
But I think you also say immediately beforehand that this movie is a bit of a chore to watch.
It is a bit of a chore to watch,
Which
especially
doesn't sound like a positive thing about the pacing.
chores are good. I love washing dishes, cleaning up the
Okay,
yard.
I don't think people use chore in a positive connotation later.
A bit
of
of a chore.
I enjoyed that Avengers movie. What a chore!
I do not enjoy Avengers movies.
I
They
could see
are
what
a
you're
chore.
saying in the context that the chore it requires effort to get through.
Yeah. I feel like,
And-
especially the way that we went in, the way that you and I went in. But I mean, like overall, I enjoyed it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
it's
I
a
think
solid
David
film.
and I ended up in that a little bit further in that camp than you did, Danny. I feel like.
No, I think it's a solid film.
Okay.
I like it. I mean, it's Tom Holland is great in it, and it's really good to see him in a different way, acting in a different portrayal in an X-rated way, honestly. To see him kind of unleash a little bit of brutality. He kind of had like what you were talking about with Crash, but he kind of had more of like a Ryan Gosling in Drive.
Yeah, like very
I see that.
flat for the most part. Like most of his stuff is happening like internally, and we don't really see it until it like bubbles up.
And Robert Pattinson was incredible. I thought it was awesome. He sold it really well. Skarsgård was also really well. Can't remember the actor, but he's the one that was the cuck. They did great.
I don't know what his name is.
Oh, the guy from he's in like
Jason something.
Damn, I had it written down somewhere. But
He's
I
in
don't
that
have it
Winchester movie, and I can't remember.
He's also the guy in The Great Gatsby.
Leonardo
yeah.
DiCaprio?
No, he's the one who like
No.
kills somebody driving around in the
Oh,
car.
yeah.
I think it's like Jason something.
Should still
Let's
be
see. Anyways, he did really great. I really liked that you could kind of see where it was going when they had all these like other plots intersecting and stuff. Jason Clarke, that's his name. But yeah, I really liked that came around, and I kind of had a feeling that Tom Holland was gonna. Anyways, no spoilers here.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
we
no
shouldn't
reason to
spoil
spoil
it.
it.
It's like a relatively new movie, and like I said in the review, I recommend the watch. Like,
Yeah,
give it a watch.
worth a
You know, just don't do it like too late at night.
Yeah. It's a bit on the long side, for sure.
It's definitely like a Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon watch, less of a Friday night watch.
You know, I wouldn't agree with that. I think it's as long as you're not starting at like 12:30 in the morning or something. As long as it's,
Oh yeah, probably not the first thing I want to watch in the morning. It's more of a Sunday afternoon.
No, I mean
watch.
like it
12:30 a.m.
12:30 a.m. Yeah, like nighttime. Like, oh, it's the end of the night. Let's pop on a movie real quick.
Yeah.
That would be a bad choice.
Yeah, it's not like a like action packed. Like it's not like it won't get your heart pumping like 100% of the time.
Yeah.
It's really good about like a slow building tension, and then oh well, that was kind of intense.
But I mean, I
Yeah.
also think there are plenty of times throughout the movie where the tension is high and where the action is fierce. I don't know. This is just so funny. I feel like lately we've been. It was the Kung Pao. It was a dividing factor.
That's
Kung
where we
Pao.
like split off into
That's where we split
two
off.
parallel storylines.
Well, that's funny too, because from your review, Danny, it sounded like you just didn't enjoy the movie at all.
Yeah, honestly,
No, I
that's,
liked it.
That's what I heard too.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, we made Danny watch.
It was kind of hard to
Another
talk
film.
about in 250 characters, and
Well-
just like it was in 6 words, you know.
You have to make every word count. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like the chirp's almost the hardest one because you like have enough to where you want to put more ideas
Yeah.
in, you know what I mean? But you don't have a whole lot to work with.
I mean, I had my gripes with the film, and I really liked it at the same time. It wasn't my favorite film. I won't watch it again at some point, ever, probably. But it's a good film to get through. It has 7.1 on 10 out of 10 on IMDb, and it has 64% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Delightful. I think I would like pretty much agree with those scores.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know. I wouldn't even say that there's necessarily anything that I would change. You know what I mean? That film is exactly the way that it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's round this on out then, everybody. It's Peeps and Predicts time, where we take two, fictional or real people, and we have some sort of argument about a scenario that we've put them in.
Or we'll just immediately agree with each other's points because that happens sometimes.
That does happen sometimes. We're due for a restructuring. And today the peeps are Willem Dafoe
Nice.
versus
Yes.
Will I Am.
Yes, my favorite pairing that I've ever put in that cup.
Here we are.
I love it when I toss something in a text chat as a joke, and then it actually happens.
then it actually happens. Yeah, that is
I
pretty
really
amazing.
hope that the predicament is who is better at flying on a mobile bat.
Well,
Who is more likely to be a member of the Black Eyed Peas?
our first predicament is: who's more likely to run an OSHA approved set?
Nice. I'm just gonna have to go out on a limb here and say the guy that's more experienced with the film industry,
yeah,
Mr. Defoe.
Also,
I don't know how much Will.i.am learned filming X-Men Origins Wolverine.
I don't think anybody learned anything from that experience.
Yeah, I was gonna say it probably wasn't a lot.
I have no argument for that. I mean, Willem Dafoe is easily the most experienced
Yeah.
and professional.
Yeah, I'm sure like Will.i.am conducts himself professionally. You know what I mean? He's just in the wrong arena on this one.
Who's more likely to put out an R&B remix?
Willem Dafoe.
All right, so we got 1 point for Willem Dafoe.
You get it, Green Goblin.
And Frank, why don't you get us our next one, man? What do we got next?
Today, our second predicament, excuse me. Our first one since the first one.
Our second predict of the day.
Who could get the win in Fall Guys?
Ooh.
Who's got that timing and the finger dexterity to pull it off?
Dang. I know almost nothing about Will.i.am. I do
know he's a musician.
I know he's an X-Men.
I'm pretty sure he's younger than Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, he's for sure younger than Willem Dafoe. So then you got the old, old versus new argument. But then
I mean, he's got some musical expertise, so I'd say his hand-eye coordination might be a little more refined.
Willem Dafoe rode around on like a crazy bat-winged like surfboard, bro. What are you talking about?
I just got to say, I don't know if the musician video game thing always crosses over, though.
You know what?
Because
Will.i.am
friends like
is a video
George
gamer.
Salas are terrible at video games. And he's also a musician.
Still unrelated, but Will.i.am plays video games. Really? What do you got there, Frank?
He actually helped Microsoft design the Kinect.
Whoa.
Yeah,
What?
that's crazy. Let's see. It's probably going to get down here at the bottom because I just...
Willem
jumped
Dafoe
in
does
here.
video game voiceovers.
I was going to say, yeah, Willem Dafoe's pretty behind being in video games, but does he ever play them? Probably not. At least he doesn't have a Twitch channel.
Nope. I do know.
No, yeah,
now
he
we
played
know
video games. He's saying about growing up, we were poor. We couldn't afford video games, so I would go to my friend Calvin and Douglas's house to play his Nintendo, or Marky's house to play the Atari 2600, and television or ColecoVision. We'd always go to Marky's porch.
ColecoVision, Frank. Come on, let's have some respect here.
I've never heard of it. Why would I respect something I've never heard of? Maybe be more prominent. It's a dead company now anyways, isn't it?
They're back. They're under new management.
Yeah, so this guy's been like a gamer for a long time.
Well, I feel like we got to give this to Will.i.am.
And he's like, his favorite games were Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, man.
Dang, he's in the right camp to
right?
be winning the Fall Guys. You got to have that platforming skill. Pull off that crown. Tiebreaker?
It's tiebreaker time,
Tiebreaker
man.
time. Okay, so 1 point Will.i.am, 1 point Willem Dafoe.
Can I just go ahead and say that I learned something about Willem Dafoe, and he is born in Appleton, Wisconsin, also known as Titletown, USA, the home of Green Bay Packers. I think Willem Dafoe is a Packers fan.
He might not be.
I can see Willem Dafoe being not into sports.
I'm pretty sure if you're from Appleton, Wisconsin, you have to be a Green Bay
I'm
Packers.
pretty sure that's the
Maybe.
way it works, actually. If you're from
Maybe.
Wisconsin at all.
But you're telling me there's people who are from Dallas. Everyone's a Cowboys fan?
I feel like that's different because Appleton's only like a population of 1,000.
Oh, really? Okay, well, that is a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, legit.
That is a big difference.
And the whole thing about like the Packers are like a fan-owned team, you know, that is the whole
Oh, yeah,
appeal behind the
he
Packers,
is a
which is
Packers
pretty
fan.
dope.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie,
that is pretty cool.
jealous of that. Although I'm glad I don't own any stake in the Dallas Cowboys.
Confirmed, Willem Dafoe is a Packers fan. Even better. I love you, Willem.
Actually, I got a new cursed film, actually. I forgot to bring up earlier. It's the Dallas Cowboys 2020-2021 season. This
Oof.
the latest cursed film. On the
that
podcast.
ankle.
Yikes.
I believe this is the last predicament in our jar.
Uh-oh.
And the tiebreaker for right now, who makes the better devil? Which, honestly, Willem Dafoe.
Willem
man.
Dafoe,
I mean,
easily.
Willem Dafoe is...
If I was casting the devil and these were my two options, I'm going with Willem Dafoe.
And I'm
Will I am?
I'm pretty sure he is an Antichrist. I haven't seen that
He
movie,
is.
but I'm pretty sure he
The
is.
Lars von Trier film.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is the devil. Willem Dafoe, I love it. You know what? We should have one more in the jar.
Well,
I don't know what happened.
There is not.
It was one that we had just written down right before.
It was, oh, you know what? I have it memorized. I remember it.
Give it to me.
So, hold on. Just for effect, I'm going to, So, in our championship round against the standing champion, Bruce Willis? Brendan Fraser. Man, as soon as I started saying Bruce Willis, I realized it was Brendan Fraser. It was just so funny how his name would not come to my mind.
And his shiny head.
Yeah, so we got Brendan Fraser facing off against Willem Dafoe. Disregard. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Who would do a better job at thwarting the Antichrist?
Oh, interesting.
Man, Brendan Fraser has faced black magic.
I was going to say, isn't essentially The Mummy, isn't that really like that movie is kind of like an Antichrist scenario?
That Imhotep was going to bring about the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, we're bringing him back to life and we have to do these things and complete the ceremony. He's like, nah, bro.
That's 3 movies, fool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
4. Isn't there 4 of those?
Well,
I think
it's
just 3 with
it
Brendan
gets
Fraser.
handed over to Tom Cruise at a point.
Oh, that's that
Yeah.
reboot.
And then there's the
reboot.
Scorpion King, which is just The Rock Johnson.
Yeah, and then there's like a Scorpion King 2 where they replace him with another wrestler. It's like Randy
Yikes.
Couture or something.
I've never seen the Scorpion King 2, but I legit low-key love the Scorpion King.
I've never seen Scorpion King, but I did play the GameCube film adaptation. So I remember that. Or video game adaptation, I should say.
Well, what has Willem Dafoe faced that would make him adept?
Years of just stellar performances.
I mean, he's been a nom.
But again, we're coming at we do this every week.
This happens every
We've
time.
clarified we're talking about the person and not the millions of roles some of them have portrayed in Willem Dafoe's case.
I feel like Brendan Fraser and his career have both faced the devil face to face.
That's true, man.
Yeah, legit. I think this is what won Brendan Fraser the thing last time, is his ability to take a punch and keep rolling with those punches. Almost in a Keanu Reeves style, you know what I mean? But he's just less of a weirdo about it.
Can we get a Keanu Reeves, Brendan Fraser?
We just got to put the pieces in place. I hope they fall.
Can we just get an Encino Man 2? Can that happen?
Can I just play devil's advocate here for a second?
Sure, advocate.
Well, if you want, but that movie's like over 2 hours, dude. Could
We
you just
already
wait
did
till we're
that
done
one.
recording?
All right, so we open up.
Exterior. All right, so here's my argument, fellas. Okay, I just learned upon researching Willem Dafoe a little bit, not only is he a Green Bay Packers fan, but he was a witness to one of the biggest games in NFL history. He was there. Now, bear with
I'm
me a
so
You're already-
intrigued to see how you're going to weave this all together.
You've already lost me.
second. Bear with
No,
me a
you've
second.
really
Okay.
you've got my attention.
It is said in religious writings, and particularly in Dante's The Inferno,
Okay.
that the deepest circle of hell, the 9th circle of hell, is a frozen lake where Satan himself resides. Okay? And he has Judas in his mouth. He's all eating him and stuff. Now, the particular game which Willem Dafoe witnessed was the Ice Bowl, the infamous Ice Bowl game, which with the Green Bay Packers, I think, defeated the Chicago Bears, or maybe it was the Cowboys. I'm not sure. Anyways, I think
Bears.
the Bears. And I think the game was so cold, people got frostbite. I'm pretty sure it was like -15 or something like there.
Yeah, just watch the NFL Network long enough, and they will eventually replay the game and tell you all about it.
Yeah. Apparently, Willem Dafoe was 12 years old. He was there. He recalls absolutely dying during the game because he got frostbite on his feet. And he said later, you're not able to relish in the fact that you were witnessing history being made until you survive it.
Which is actually why it was so easy for him to shove his feet into those heels in Boondock Saints, because the nerves in his toes were dead. Yeah.
So he has survived the ninth circle of hell.
I mean, can we make it analogous to the ninth circle of hell when the option was, oh, let's just go home. It's too cold.
Yeah, he could have left or like worn better clothes.
People would have killed for that ticket.
I mean,
you could not just go home.
That's true, but there's still a choice. Whereas Brendan Fraser, against all odds, as Phil Collins would say, has really turned it around. That's all I'm saying.
Danny, that was delightful, but I am not going to be voting for your ridiculous argument. I will be voting for our man, Brendan Fraser, because that man just knows how to tuck and roll, man.
He slaps.
I don't know if there is a situation that Brendan Fraser can't overcome, except for like the script that is the Looney Tunes movie.
Yikes.
Or his knees.
Or his knees, yes. Knees are rough, you know?
Yeah, you get old.
Knees are a hard thing to get over. It's not always an old thing, David. Let's be sensitive to those with terrible knees.
Mostly Frank. Well, there we go. All right, Brandon Fraser's back on top. We got another podcast in the bag. Keep an eye out. We're going to do a special bonus episode soon on the haunting of Bly Manor.
Ooh, spooky.
Which I just started. A pretty good first episode. I'm excited to talk with you guys about
What a
it.
coincidence, David. I still need to start it.
I am right next to the last episode, friends.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, actually. Could have guessed that.
Right on. Well, thanks for checking it out, everybody. Please, if you like the podcast, share it with somebody. But also follow us on the good old social medias. We're David and Frank and Beans on Facebook, or you can check out our Instagram, Uninformed Movie Reviews. That is the @sign, so that you can see all the silly stuff being posted. All the silly stuff.
Check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts at Uninformed Movie Reviews. And if you like our music, check out Phantom Kin. If you like that intro music, slap it on Facebook, Spotify, and all that.
Yeah, all that stuff.
All those things.
All of the things. Don't forget to check out the stuff over at Apollo City Comics. As always, go to their Instagram and report all of the posts.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Just be kind to one another,
Mm-hmm.
And make sure if you are running some type of workplace that it's safe for your workers.